Hello everyone, welcome to Dundas Dashboard how-to videos. This video will show you how you can create date mapping in the virtual cube that you create from an OLAP data source. Date mappings are used to map dimension hierarchies from your source cube to a date format that is similar to Dundas Dashboard time dimensions. Date mappings are necessary if you want to use calendar-style parameter controls to filter data on your performance dashboard, or use calendar controls to filter data in an analytical report or an analytical dashboard. These are also necessary if you want to use a date time scale on a chart or use date offset parameters or date tokens to filter your data. Keep in mind that you can still filter the data in your performance and analytical dashboards using a hierarchy viewer. But if you want to give the users the option to filter using a calendar style control, then date mapping is needed. This would make sure that the data from your OLAP data source would be correctly mapped to be used with Dundas Dashboard's calendar control. So for example, if I have a report that you see on your screen right now, which uses a date dimension called calendar year, if I go to its menu tab and I want to filter the data using a calendar control, I cannot do it. It's grayed out. This is because the date mapping is not set up on my virtual cube. Once I set it up, then this will be enabled and I'll be able to use a calendar control to filter the data. So to set date mapping, go to the edit mode of your virtual cube and click on the date mapping tab. This video assumes that you know how to set up a virtual cube. If you're not familiar with it, then go to our support site and see the article on how to create a virtual cube or watch the how-to video. So once you have your virtual cube and you're in the date mapping tab, click on new date mapping, and here select a dimension from the source cube. So in this example, I'm going to select date dimension. Click on next. Here select a hierarchy from the list. So we're going to set up date mapping for date.calendar hierarchy. In this step, you'll be defining the date mapping rules. So the first step is to select the level type that matches each of the hierarchy levels from the source cube. So since date is not filled up automatically, let's set this up. So date has been mapped to days. And as you can see, the member caption and the member value related to it. The next step is to choose a start date for the mapping. You can set the start date manually based on your cube. By default, the start date is set to the current system date. If you want to change it, then click on the calendar and select the date that you want to be your start date. Or you can also type it in manually in the box. Select the first day of the week from the list. Let's set it to Sunday. And then select the calendar type. You have three options: Gregorian, ISO, and fiscal calendars. Note that if you want to use a fiscal calendar, you can also choose the option of using fiscal calendar year +1 by selecting this checkbox. For this example, I'm going to use the Gregorian calendar type. The preview area here lets you preview the corresponding date mapping by selecting a level using the drop-down list. So if I choose the date, then I get the preview of the date mapping related to the date level. The date column shows the map dates, and the sequence column shows the numbers used for forecast formulas. You can also detect the start date automatically. To do this, check the Auto Detect Values checkbox. But first, click on Setup to configure the auto detection. This would let you choose the member property that will be converted and configure the conversion process for that property. In the first step, select the member property to be converted from this list. For example, let's select member caption. Next, enter the date format string that will be used to parse the member property values. An easy way of doing this would be to select a predefined format by clicking on this arrow and selecting a format. You can also type the format manually Keep in mind that the format string should adhere to the construction rules described in these links. Next, select the corresponding culture. In this section, select the format styles that handle white spaces during conversion. You have 4 options that you see on your screen. If the input string has exactly the same white space characters as in the format string, then you don't have to select this option. In my case, my input string and my format string have the same white space characters, so I will ignore this step. So once everything is set up, click on Convert to test the conversion. So here the conversion is successful, as you can see a green check mark next to it. If it is successful, then click on OK to complete the conversion. Now check the Auto Detect Values checkbox. So now when you preview, you can see that there is a new conversion status column that indicates successful or an unsuccessful conversion. So in this case, the conversion has been successful. One thing to note is that auto detection of the start date may not work if your OLAP dimension has empty or unknown members. In this case, use the Members to Exclude option to exclude such members from the date mapping. To do this, click on Members to Exclude button, which opens the Exclude Members dialog. Select the Hide Unknown or Empty checkbox to hide members with empty captions. And click on New to specify the unique name of a member to exclude. You can also enter an MDX expression, for example. Once you're set, click on OK. And click on Preview to see if the date mapping has been successful. So once you are ready with the setup, click on Finish. The wizard closes and the new date mapping appears in the grid. Click on Save to save the virtual cube definition. So once it is saved, go to your report, go to your date dimension and click on its menu button. Once you do that, you can see that the calendar option has been enabled. And I can click on it and choose to filter the data. So as you can see, the data has changed accordingly, and I can now use the calendar option to filter the data in the analytical report, or use calendar controls on my analytical dashboard to filter the data on it. As I mentioned in the beginning, the date mapping allows you to use the calendar style parameter control in your performance dashboard to filter the data coming from your KPI or a data set, as well as use date offset parameters and use date tokens to filter the data. For more information on date mapping and how to set it up, visit the links to our support site that you see on your screen. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our support site at support.dundas.com or contact Dundas Support using the contact information shown on your screen. Thank you for watching.